Network Information Center, SGNIC for short. Of course, SGNIC is the local host for APRICOT 2013. Choon, please.
Mr. Philip Smith, Chairman of the APIA Board, Mr. Paul Wilson, Director General of APNIC, Ms. Aileen Chia, Acting Chairman of SGNIC Board. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you here today. Friends and colleagues from Singapore itself, and friends and colleagues from in and around the region, and friends and colleagues from further across the globe. On behalf of SGNIC, a warmest greeting to all of you. Welcome you to our sunny island. Some of you might have known and some might not, but the very first APRICOT conference was held here in Singapore back in 1996. That was a good 17 years ago, and the event was held at the RELC, right next door to this hotel. So having APRICOT back here again this year feels like a good homecoming. We've come a full circle. APIA and SGNIC have worked painstakingly to make sure that participants derive the maximum benefits from the conference and enjoy the most from the social events we have planned for you. As a start, at this opening ceremony, we have invited leaders in the various fields, from the governing body of a national domain name registry to the international institutions responsible for managing global internet resources, and to a leading internet civil society, to share with us their visionary views of key developments in the internet. Also, many prominent experts from various technical fields will be speaking in the 5 technical tracks in the next 5 days. In conclusions, I would like to thank APIA and APNIC, the SGNIC team, as well as the APRICOT Management Committee and Program Committee for working hard and putting in the best effort to prepare for this event. I would also like to thank all our sponsors and supporting organizations who have contributed generously to bring APRICOT 2013 into fruition. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Choon, and thank you for holding this event. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Philip Smith, the chairman of the Asian and Pacific Internet Association, up on the stage as well.
So good afternoon, everybody. Just a quick comment here, because I would like to give the stage to our keynote speakers and to Paul to talk a little bit more. As Choon said, this was, well, next door was the birthplace of APRICOT. And I think any of you who've been around for the, I suppose, the whole duration of APRICOT will have seen that the conference has evolved a little bit from the small internet operations meeting where a few network engineers got together to talk about internet issues. And it's now very much a big event, a big summit where people from really all around the world, never mind just Asia-Pacific region, have come to meet, discuss, share, and learn from each other. So I'm delighted that I'm looking around here, the room is full this afternoon, and hopefully we'll see the similar thing for the conference and for the rest of the week. The volunteer spirit behind APRICOT is very much still in place. This event is put together by a cast of volunteers who've given freely of their time, talents to make the event happen. I'm talking about the management committee, the program committee, the fellowship committee, as well as many other people who have helped make the event happen. I'd like to thank the local internet community for helping with the network infrastructure and giving you the internet access that we have. We've already had the workshops. They concluded on Saturday. We had full house for those workshops, covering 5 topics, which are now very much part of the APRICOT workshop scene. And on behalf of APIA, we really would like to express our sincere thanks to SGNIC for their efforts in putting together this event. They've had a few challenges on the way with our original chosen event being pulled from under us, but we're now in this beautiful hotel, so I hope you enjoy the hotel facilities and the amazing buffet lunch, probably the best ever lunch we've ever had for an APRICOT in living memory. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll enjoy the week. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Philip. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Paul Wilson, the Director General of the Asia Pacific Network Information Center, up on stage.
Thanks so much. Welcome to APRICOT 2013. Without naming everyone, there are many colleagues and partners and friends who've brought this event to Singapore and to us all. It's really fantastic to see more than 700 people registered for APRICOT this year. As Philip said, this really is a major event for the region. It's actually a major event for the world, one of the largest of its kind, and that's a great result. It's a great record, and thanks to everyone, not only who organised, but those who've taken the time and trouble to be here, because you're all part of this event. So you've heard that this is the 18th year of APRICOT. It's a long time since the first APRICOT happened here in Singapore. I think in that time the internet has grown fantastically and phenomenally, and it really has been critical that the people who have built the internet have been the people who've come to APRICOT very much. It's part of what APRICOT has left as a track record. I was working myself here in Singapore at the same time, very nearby at the RELC Centre where APRICOT was held, and working for the International Development Research Centre on various very early internet development projects in the region. And it really is just wonderful to see how far things have come since then. I think this region around the hotel here has gone from being a series of sort of old houses in the bush to being an incredibly vibrant sort of area, and it's really what we're all seeing all around the world, but especially in this region in terms of the development that the internet is part of. The event is about continuing the strength and continuing to build on the strength of the internet. Those who are here, whether you're newcomers or not, you're going to spend the week networking with colleagues and attending sessions, workshops. Very importantly, you're going to be contributing to others and to sessions here from your own experiences, and that kind of participation is also part of it. While you're here, you're also actually participating in internet governance. You're helping to shape the internet as it grows as part of a community. You're actually helping to address sort of technical issues and technical questions, but a lot of those issues, questions and problems that you're dealing with actually have a much wider importance to the world these days than just to yourselves or your companies. You know, the internet is part of life everywhere, and whether you're working on IPv6 transition or security or technical policies. Once again, these are issues that affect almost the entire community these days. That's why internet governance has come about as a term. You know, what we're doing here is really about how the internet is growing. And you've probably heard the term many times, in fact, but we've just seen recently how important the concepts of internet governance are during a major telecommunications conference, the World Conference on International Telecoms, which was held last December. And at that meeting, it was debated whether or not the internet should be governed by the international telecommunications regulations, that is, by an intergovernmental treaty, the same treaty that's applied to telephones for many years. The result of those debates wasn't so bad. The internet really wasn't hurt by the ITRs as they were proposed. It wasn't helped much either, for that matter. But that's okay, because for the most part, the internet, as I've said, they're changing really rapidly. There are problems emerging and problems being addressed, and that's part of what we've been doing for the last 20 years. I think what's happening now is that instead of being a sort of closed room of specialists, meetings like APRICOT are really being recognised as being fundamental. What I'd like to remind us all of is that we actually share a responsibility here that's bigger than our day-to-day jobs. We're sharing a responsibility for the future of the internet itself. Within internet governance, there's an argument about whether the current model is good enough, how it works, how it can be improved, but the basics of the current model are that it's what's called a multi-stakeholder model. It involves people having genuine involvement and a genuine say at all levels from all walks of life in the way the internet emerges. And it's pretty clear that the internet is so vast these days that no one is able to make those decisions responsibly or effectively by themselves, and that's the origins of this model. It's not a new model, actually. It's the way things have always worked, but I think they've worked that way almost without many of us recognising that. And so we're coming to a stage now where these mechanisms, the way the internet is actually running, is being valued. It's being recognised and valued. It's being challenged as well. And so even though in the next week we'll be talking about technical topics, and there'll be plenty to look at. You know, the learnings have been going on already for a week with the workshops, but we've got a lot more to come. I hope you get great value out of that, but I know that the internet itself will as well. So this year, 2013, is also an important year for APNIC, which has been working in the region as well, actually for 20 years, because it's our 20th anniversary year. And just like APRICOT, APNIC has evolved and grown over the years to make sure that we stay relevant and that we continue to support the membership of APNIC and the community and the internet itself. But in this 20th year, you'll start to hear details rather shortly of as we have a look at our history and look forward to the event in 6 months' time, where we'll be celebrating the 20th birthday. That'll be at the APNIC meeting in Xi'an in China. So we'll of course also be having a bit of a party there, and I do hope that everyone who's here will really feel encouraged to join us at the next APNIC meeting. But in the meantime, we have got APRICOT 2013 for the next week, and I really do hope that for your own benefit and for the benefit of those around you, your colleagues, the world at large and the internet, you'll really make the most of and contribute the most you can and really enjoy the next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Right now, I'd like to call upon Ms. Aileen Chia. She is the Director of the SGNIC Board and is also the Deputy Director General for the Infocom Development Authority of Singapore. Aileen will be sharing with you today on the ICT landscape of Singapore and our approach to internet governance, amongst other issues. Aileen, please.
Good afternoon. Mr. Philip Smith, Chairman of APIA Board. Mr. Paul Wilson, Director General of APNIC. Ladies, gentlemen, very good afternoon to all of you. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon at the 18th APRICOT conference. And Singapore in particular, together with SGNIC, is honored to play host to this annual event. On behalf of the SGNIC board, I would like to join Mr. Lim Chun Sai, the General Manager of SGNIC, in welcoming all of you to Singapore and to this conference. 2012 has been another eventful year for the Internet. We continue to see the introduction of many innovative technologies and services, as well as the proliferation of broadband services and smart devices that brought Internet to more users around the world and made Internet access friendly. We thus support the development of policies that would strike a balance between the need for protecting individuals' information and the need for businesses to use the information in a legitimate manner. This is to ensure that while promoting end-user confidence in the usage of the Internet, we do not stifle innovation of businesses. On this front, Singapore has enacted a Personal Data Protection Act, which took effect on 2nd January this year. This act will enhance consumer confidence in the use of Internet applications that are increasingly personal data-centric. The act is the first overarching piece of legislation that regulates the collection, use, and disclosure of personal data in Singapore. It aims to safeguard individuals' personal data against misuse and promote proper management of personal data in organization. The Act will facilitate cross-border transfer of data, enhance Singapore's competitiveness, and strengthen our position as a trusted business hub. The Act will come into force in the middle of 2014 and will be implemented by the Personal Data Protection Commission. In the current transition period, the Commission is actively reaching out to organizations and businesses to help them prepare for the sunrise of the law. In the sector of intellectual property, we will support policy to show respect for IP rights and to facilitate protection of such rights. This way, investors and creators have the incentive to continue developing new products and services for end users. Within the national boundary and as a strategic thrust of our Infocom policy, we will promote citizens' access to the Internet and increase Infocom literacy to ensure that all levels of our society can leverage on the benefits of the Internet. And finally, to promote respect for different views through the appreciation and acceptance of social norms, we support development of policies to encourage responsible use of the Internet and to ensure that the Internet does not create social divisions or strife. The APRICOT 2013, where we are gathered now, is a clear demonstration of this multi-stakeholder approach to further advance the Internet. And I would like to commend APIA, APNIC, and SGNIC for their work in gathering the community together and in organizing this conference. I would also like to thank the participation of many international and regional Internet-related organizations like the ICANN, APTLD, ISOC.Asia, and other stakeholders. SGNIC will continue to work with various regional and international communities and organizations to promote the efficient management of Internet resources and a trusted environment for Internet's continued growth as a platform for innovation, economic development, and social engagement. On this note, I would like to again take this opportunity to welcome ICANN, which will host this meeting in Singapore in 2014, and we look forward to yet another successful event in Singapore. In closing, I would like to extend my best wishes to your many discussions to come in the conference and tutorials this week, and I wish you a successful APRICOT 2013, and at the same time, an enjoyable stay in Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you for the interesting information, Aileen. I believe now the delegates have a better understanding of our approach to Internet governance in Singapore. Now I would like to have Choon to present Aileen with a gift of appreciation. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite our first keynote speaker, Ms. Lynn St.Amour, the President and CEO of the Internet Society, up on stage. Her presentation for today will be on preserving the Internet for future generations. Lynn, please.
Good afternoon. And thank you. It's always a pleasure to return to beautiful Singapore. And I'd like to particularly thank Philip Smith as chair of the IPA, a former ISOC board member, I'll note, for inviting me. This is a great opportunity. So there are many familiar faces here. But given the range of organizations here today and the growth the Internet Society has seen over the last few years, I hope you'll allow me a few minutes to say a few words about ISOC and our more recent activities. As many of you know, I'm sure, the Internet Society was founded by two of the early pioneers of the Internet, Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn. In fact, Vint served as the first president and CEO of the Society. And happily, we celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. Our mission is dedicated to the stability, continuity, and advancement of the global Internet, not for its own sake, but rather for the benefits the Internet can bring to all people. We work at the intersections of technology, technology, policy, and development to advance the ongoing development of the Internet as an open platform. We've long been active in regional development and capacity building activities, and they have helped many developing countries come online over the last 20 years. Just as importantly, we promote and advocate for policies at the national and international level that support the expansion and the open evolution of the Internet. We also work to ensure the Internet's technology continues to be based on technical standards developed in environments of open technical debate while identifying and addressing the very real geopolitical interests. We do all these things with a broad range of stakeholders. As a cause-based organization, we certainly work with ISOC members and chapters, but also with civil society, private sector, governments, and many international organizations. We are members or recognized observers of virtually all intergovernmental organizations such as WIPO, ECOSOC, UNESCO, OECD, ITU, and also many regional organizations, APEC, APECTEL, CETEL, to name but a few. We have a global presence. We have 91 chapters around the world. We have over 65,000 individual members, and many of them form chapters. We have 145 organizational members across academia and industry, as well as some governmental organizations as well. We have 5 regional bureaus that address regional issues, mobilize local support for global efforts, and develop policy and educational awareness. And we have Internet Society offices in over 17 countries. Last May, we moved our Asia Pacific regional office here to Singapore, which is headed by Rajneesh Singh, reinforcing our strong commitment to the Asia Pacific region. We in fact have a very active membership in Asia Pacific. We have 17 chapters, and approximately 25% of our individual members actually come from this region. And this includes some of this region's greatest innovators and leaders, including Kilnam Chung, Jun Murai, Toru Takahashi, Tan Tin Wei, Zhang Ping Wu, and many, many others. Those are simply a few of the names that I've just either spotted in the audience now or saw on my way in here. So the Internet Society is also the organizational home for the Internet Engineering Task Force, the Internet Research Task Force, and the Internet Architecture Board. And virtually everything we all do online today is because of work done or of a standard or a best practice document that was developed within the IETF constellation. Open standards are central to the Internet's development, and many of the essential principles that we still hold very dear today come directly from the IETF's earliest days and their efforts. We're working with the IETF to bring more people in. We have a lot of work to do here, and we need your help and support. ISOC's had a number of programs over the years. Probably the most successful one is the ISOC IETF Fellows. That's run for approximately 10 years and has brought in fellows from across the developing world to the IETF and helped and encouraged them to take that experience back home to build further community there. We started a little over a year ago an IETF Policymakers program to the IETF that's proving also extremely successful. But we all play a role in supporting the participation in open standards development. So we need your help, online and at physical meetings. Just have 2 quick slides here, I think, to show some of the progression with the IETF. This is from the IETF a year ago. They tend to, we hold 3 meetings a year. I don't have the stats for this first quarter's meeting, because in fact that happens in about 2 weeks' time. This particular meeting was actually held in Paris, a little over 1,300 participants, 230 newcomers, and IETF 80, which was held the year earlier, was just under 1,200 people, and that one was actually held in Prague, so that's a fairly consistent, region-to-region comparison. That particular IETF had 56 countries participating. The one a year earlier had 49 countries, and you can see that there's still quite a heavy North American presence. That's probably about 40% or so. But the other countries are also growing significantly. We've got great participation from a couple of countries in Asia, China and Japan notably. We want to encourage more. This just talks about the activity between IETF, so roughly 4 months or so. At any point in time, there's approximately 120 active working groups. All the other stats are pretty specific to the IETF process. I think what's most interesting to note is that the IETF actually does its work online. It's actually structured to minimize the barriers to participation. Any decisions on documents, last call, or consensus are taken online. The physical meetings help to build relationships and progress the work, obviously. But they have made serious efforts since the very first day to support participation with the lowest sort of barriers to the participation, if you will. Obviously, having internet access is quite critical. But again, we're really looking to increase the diversity in the IETF. We need help from people like you here in your companies, in your organizations, and in your countries to really support the IETF and help get people participating in the work. So I want to just go to some of the recent activities that ISOC's participated in for a minute here. We work to actively advance and promote key internet technologies that are vital to a global open internet. We do that with many partners and regional organizations, including obviously APNIC, private sector, and our chapters around the world. For example, we hosted World IPv6 Day in 2011 and World IPv6 launch in 2012. Those efforts clearly moved the needle on V6 deployment, but we still have a very, very, very long way to go. And we all need to do all we can to spur V6 deployment if we want to maintain so many of the good things about the internet today. Policy, we're very active and active broadly in internet policy matters. We hear about internet governance a lot, but we're also active in digital content, privacy, data protection, security, issues of access, to name a few. We advocate for the multi-stakeholder model of internet governance, and we work to promote, influence, and shape discussions that are central to a free and open internet. Now, dating back to the very earliest days of the internet's development, there was a keen recognition that to be truly successful, the internet needed people around the world who could sustain and build internet infrastructure to help expand it to their local communities. So ISOC, working with many partners, hosted 1- and 2-week-long developing country workshops called Network Training Workshops, or NTWs. And a number of people here in the room either supported or gave time to those efforts as well as attended them. In all, they were attended by more than 1,600 participants from more than 90 countries, and you can actually connect a lot of the internet development in developing countries to those individuals and to those efforts. Many of them are still active, and they're now leading internet development activities in their communities and their countries. The Internet Society continues work today in this area. We're working to improve internet infrastructure and access, to foster efficient and cost-effective interconnection and traffic exchange environments in developing countries, specifically recently with a significant focus on the development of internet exchange points, or IXPs. And in this area of regional capacity building, we're proud to have helped support the APRICOT Fellowship Program for the past several years. This year there are 21 fellows here. We also support equivalent efforts in SANOG, South Asian NOG, PACNOG, Pacific Islands NOG. We help with the establishment of the Malaysian NOG, MyNOG, as well as many other training initiatives in the region. So I want to move now to future generations. So the future of the global internet depends on ensuring that all those connected to it have the ability to participate equally, to benefit from an open global internet, to use the internet for communication and commerce, and to participate in developing future internet directions, applications, and technologies that meet local and global needs. I want to take a quick look at the number. This is changing so fast that frankly right now I wouldn't be surprised if the number was closer to 2.6 billion online than 2.4. But what's of particular interest is that 45% of today's online population actually comes from the Asia-Pacific region. That is equal to the total online population of just 5 years ago. Again, just another measure of the significant penetration and growth. So in particular in this region, there are some countries with very high penetration. South Korea and Japan with 83 and 80%. Singapore, Taiwan, and Hong Kong are all at approximately 75% penetration. China's at 40%. But given the average across all of Asia is 28%, then there must be many countries significantly below this level. And indeed, we see countries like India with penetration at 11%. So for all of us, the challenge is how do we bring the remaining 5 billion people online? ISOC's working hard to make this happen, as are all of you. We have a goal internally that drives a lot of our efforts and drives our priorities, and that's that all countries should be on a par with each other. On a par, developed and developing. Developing countries are at the forefront of internet growth, and many are experiencing some of the fastest rates of GDP growth in the world, but there is still a very long way to go. What's most important to remember is that the impact of the internet in developing and emerging economies is not just a benefit for them, as clear as that is, it's a benefit to all of us. As people in places like Lesotho, India, and Myanmar come online, the internet will be transformed in ways that are hard to imagine, but will certainly make it richer. Provided, of course, these new users have the chance to access an internet similar to the internet we're able to access today. So the internet becomes increasingly more valuable, useful, and interesting for all of us when more people, businesses, institutions, and ideas are connected to it. The more diverse, the richer. So how do we ensure the remaining billions have access to the same internet we do today? Well, the social and economic opportunities generated by the internet are extraordinary. It's easy to become complacent and take the internet for granted. We must not lose sight of the fact that the primary reason the internet has had such a sweeping impact is because it has been guided by a few simple principles or core characteristics that have not changed over time. Specifically, open, freely accessible, and globally interoperable technical standards are at its core and have made it so successful, have allowed it to scale, be a platform for innovation, supporting unimagined new products and services. Its inclusive, transparent, multi-stakeholder governance model, globally distributed and participatory responsibility for its technical and administrative functions, and an architecture that facilitates permissionless innovation where the power of creativity and the freedom of choice is in our hands as users. The pioneers who built and managed the internet in its early days not only worked to develop technical standards and establish the basic functionality of the internet, but they also helped to shape the spirit of the internet. It was based on the principles of open sharing, open access, and choice. And we owe them, and many of you here, a very big thank you for establishing the internet and hence humankind on this course. So turning quickly to internet governance, the internet works because its governance is distributed, open, inclusive, collaborative, transparent. And this type of mutual cooperation ensures the stability, security, and availability of the global infrastructure and has been a key contributor to the rapid evolution and expansion of the internet. And at the same time, from the outside, this is not the easiest model to understand or at times appreciate. 2 months ago, December 2012, the International Telecommunications Union convened the World Conference on International Telecommunications, or WICIT. It was held in Dubai, and it was to revisit a 1988 treaty called the International Telecommunication Regulations, or ITRs. The ITU member states were to revise the treaty text to redefine agreements between countries to facilitate future global telecommunications. WICIT certainly brought Internet governance issues to the fore and elevated the conversations on Internet governance to entirely new, and sometimes low, levels and new audiences. So I'd like to share some observations and lessons learned from the Wicket. In the months prior to Wicket, ISOC and members of the Internet community and many policymakers from around the world expressed concerns that some member states may use these negotiations to establish restrictive or harmful government controls over the Internet. The Internet Society does not believe that intergovernmental treaty-making processes are the best way to address critical Internet resource and policy issues. They do not allow for multi-stakeholder engagement in the decision-making processes, and they are just too slow. As one point, this treaty, in fact, will not be enforced until 2015. We also noted that some government proposals would threaten the viability of the Internet's multi-stakeholder model and could pose a direct threat to the open nature of the Internet itself. So what happened at Wicket? Although some of the most troubling proposals offered in advance of the meeting did not make it into the renegotiated treaty, the final document was still controversial enough that 55 nations declined to sign it. Those are the white boxes, and I'll also note this is in French, so if you're looking for your country, not in English. Having said this, even though 55 nations declined to sign it on site, more are likely to sign it after further consultations back in their capitals, likely bringing the support for this treaty to the same level as the last one signed in 1988. So unfortunately, Wicket did adopt a controversial new Internet resolution that is only a passing reference to the value of multi-stakeholder policy development and seems to suggest a much more prominent role for governments and the ITU on Internet matters. This resolution underscores the long-standing debate between those who envision a more direct role for intergovernmental organizations in the management of the Internet and those who support the existing open multi-stakeholder model. While UN members formally endorsed the multi-stakeholder model in 2005 at the World Summit on the Information Society, WSIS, a strong undercurrent of support for greater governmental involvement has remained among some countries and is not likely to go away for some time. And don't misunderstand what we're saying. We do not say there is no role for governments. We're particularly focused on how that role is played out and where governments engage. So in addition to the broad Internet resolution, the revised treaty also contains new language relating to network security and spam. And while the language for both those provisions is quite general, there is concern that the implementation of those provisions will place restrictions on the Internet and the content it carries. So Wicket was particularly useful as it provided even more insight into the Internet priorities of developing countries. And that's shown here in this word cloud. They have important questions and concerns about the high cost of connectivity, privacy, and consumer protection, to name a few. It's clear that if we don't increase our efforts to address these issues, there is the risk that many countries will turn to sources that do not support the Internet's development and open model. And it is clear that more engagement is essential, not only because of the point I just made, but because engaging in those activities will spur deployment in those countries as well. And frankly, that is the more important point. At ISOC, we're committed to taking it even more local, and this will be a major focus for us in this year and the coming years. We will do that through our chapters, bureaus, partners, and members. And there are many other challenges that I don't have time to address today, such as privacy, trust, and identity, which are very important to us at the Internet Society and will certainly impact the future of the Internet for the billions yet to come online. So just multi-stakeholder model, quickly. Although Wicket revealed deep regional and national differences over policy, there were bright spots. There were a number of strong statements of support for the overall Internet model, even among those who chose to sign the treaty. Many countries stated their commitment to playing an active role and to ensuring that their citizens are able to take advantage of the full value that the Internet has to offer. This is something for us to build on. Our challenge, and the challenge of all supporters of the multi-stakeholder approach, is not only to advocate for the model, but also to ensure that it works for those who may question its effectiveness. We need to lean into their concerns. If not, we risk a fragmented internet. In some ways, the debate at Wicked helped to clarify the risk that the global internet may give way to a set of national internets, each with its own rules and gatekeepers. And if that happens, the platform will become more fragmented and fewer people will benefit from it. From our perspective as an organization that believes that the internet becomes more valuable and powerful as it becomes more globally diverse, this is an outcome that must be averted. Ultimately, with a fragmented internet, I believe it is those individuals and those nations that will suffer, as they will inevitably fall behind. So the new treaty doesn't go in effect until January 2015. So all countries, those that have signed the treaty and those that haven't, have several years to determine exactly what changes they are going to make. And we need to watch this space quite carefully. So back to the theme, preserving the internet for future generations. It's really exciting to think about the new ideas, the new richness, the new energy that the internet will have as a result of these new users, many of whom will come from developing countries. But these benefits will only accrue if the internet retains the qualities it has today, including the qualities of global reach, openness, and permissionless innovation. I'd like to reference a quote from Vince and Bob. Came from an Internet History Retrospective, which was written by them as well as a number of other internet pioneers. And the quote is, "If the internet stumbles, it will not be because we lack for technology, vision, or motivation. It will be because we cannot set a direction and collectively march into the future." The internet is a story, and it's still developing, has its ups and downs, as it challenges many traditional power structures and pushes many limits socially and politically. But we can accomplish things we would never have dreamed of if we all lean in and work together. So what can we do to ensure an open global internet? Be vigilant. Support and defend a free and open internet. Uphold the multi-stakeholder collaborative aspects in all we do. This has proven to be very successful, has given us a rich and robust online environment, and frankly, it's afforded the internet the protection and room to grow. Work to ensure the continued support for the broad definition of internet governance that came out of the World Summit on the Information Society. And we must resist efforts to make internet governance be just about the so-called critical internet resources or the internet's administrative functions or any one internet organization. Most importantly, participate. Participate in APRICOT, in IETF, in your local, exceedingly local arenas. Pay attention. Use it as opportunities to inform people, to make your positions known. The internet is facing some of the most challenging times in its brief history. We've all worked hard to create a free, open, and accessible internet, one that is not walled, not censored, not fractured, and we have to keep working hard together. Given the challenges of today and tomorrow, we must be vigilant in promoting and protecting the internet's principles. We must continue to support the multi-stakeholder model. We all have a stake in preserving the internet, not only for those who enjoy the internet today, but for future generations, from the next billion to the very last. So this should be our global call to action. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn, for the insightful presentation on the efforts by ISOC and to help to develop the future of the internet. Now I'd like to have Philip to present the token of appreciation for Lynn, please. Thanks. Philip. Next up, let us welcome our second keynote speaker of the day, Mr. Fadi Chehadé, up on stage. Mr. Fadi Chehadé is the President and CEO of ICANN, and his speech today will be on ICANN's multi-stakeholder model and its Asian Pacific strategy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fadi. Thank you, Philip, for the invitation to your great event here. And thank you to SGNIC, Ms. Chia and Mr. Lynn, for the great work you've done to help us make this a great event. Appreciate it very much. And thank you, Paul, for making me feel at home here. Thank you very much. It's very hard to follow both Ms. Chia and certainly my colleague, Lynn St.Amour. They have presented a very eloquent and very clear message about the importance of what you all do here and the importance of our work together. So thank you, both of you. I could package some of what you said and take it on the road with me. I'd appreciate it. It's very, very clear message. Thank you. I'm going to just share with you some thoughts. This is my first time here. I feel at home, first of all, because I am Asian. I was born in Asia and became an adult in Asia. This is, of course, at the very edge of Asia on the Mediterranean, but I am a native of Beirut, Lebanon, and that's where I grew up until the age of 18. And then I went to America to learn English, and I stayed there. So I've been in America since then. I am also, like many of you here, a computer scientist. This is my background. I started at Bell Labs and at IBM Research, and I taught computer science as well. I still do when I'm free a little bit at University of Southern California. So I share a lot with you and with the work you do. But I must tell you, I come to you with 3 messages today. The first one, I come to you with a very deep and sincere apology on behalf of my community, the ICANN community. Why apologize? Because I don't think we have done enough in Asia. And I intend to change that. ICANN's present. Thank you. Asia is not just by numbers very important. Asia by substance is very important. And yet, if I look at how much we've engaged with you, how much we've listened to you, how much we've been part of what you do, it's actually quite anemic. And we need to change that. We need to change that. So I'm here all week, and I spent a couple of days in China and a day in Tokyo and a day in Korea and now a couple of days here to actually, more than anything else, get to know you and listen to the community and figure out what we need to do to actually start being part of this community in every possible way. So I'm here to share with you some things I already plan to do. Number one, we are going to change ICANN as a US-centric organization from the inside out by dividing ICANN headquarters immediately into 3 global hubs. And our board has approved that plan in January unanimously. So instead of continuing to grow our staff in the US, I have put a freeze on growth in the US, and instead we're going to build 3 global hubs to serve the world. And all of ICANN's operations will now be distributed across these global hubs. This is the only way we change. And I want to be clear, these are not offices. Offices that oftentimes when we want to internationalize, we build offices as loudspeakers for ICANN. That's not the solution. We don't want more loudspeakers for ICANN. We actually need microphones. We need to listen to you. We need to bring you into the process, not tell you what we came up with, but rather make you part of the process. That's a huge difference in approach. And therefore, ICANN is moving forward with 3 global hubs, 1 in Asia, 1 to serve Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and 1 will serve North and South America. And that's a plan in motion. And in fact, my team just landed here in Singapore today for discussions with the community in order to see how we're going to move forward with the Asian hub. Our plan and first choice is for the hub to be in Singapore. However, we have not finalized that, pending listening to you and pending making sure that we do the right thing. And I'm not speaking about an engagement office of a couple of people. I'm speaking about a major office with tens of people that will actually transform ICANN staff composition so that our staff starts looking like the world. So our staff in Asia starts looking like Asia. And you become part of our team and part of the way we think, part of the way we design processes, part of the way we make policies, part of the way we implement the good work that we have to do. In addition, we plan to have partnerships and collaborative agreements with many of your organizations around Asia so that we can, with you, build engagement activities around the whole continent and the whole AP region. We will not do this on our own. We will do this with you, in partnership with you. So we will place engagement officers across Asia in the working with you, with your organizations, to ensure that we are closer to our stakeholders, as close as possible to you. So the net that you need to take away from this is that the ICANN that was sitting and producing things and expecting you all to come to it is finished, is gone. The new ICANN is coming to you and is engaging you to bring you into the fold of our activities, our policies, and our implementation. And so the outreach is not really outreach from ICANN. The outreach is a local activity that listens and responds. Number 1 rule of engagement is listening. First, listening. And that's what ICANN will do moving forward. Finally, about our AP strategy and our global strategy, I want to emphasize this is not just about hiring people. This is about changing ICANN from the inside out, almost changing our DNA to become a global DNA. So I'm asking my top executives to physically move into the new hubs. Our head of global policy for ICANN is moving from Washington, D.C. to Istanbul, which is the target hub for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And he will start by building a local team and bringing local people into the ICANN process. I will personally be working around the hubs around the world. I will not be based in Los Angeles anymore. I will be based in Los Angeles and hopefully in Singapore and also in Istanbul, and I will rotate between the hubs to lead by example, to show my own team that it's time for us to get out of our shell and actually go to the world. So as I said in my opening speech in Prague last summer, ICANN cannot be anymore a fortress. It has to become an oasis, an open, transparent, engaging place that welcomes everyone rather than a closed set of old ways of doing things. That state and stage of ICANN is over now. The second thing I want to talk to you about is the transformation of the world we build, the DNS world that ICANN is very engaged in. Many of you know that we are introducing the new generic top-level domains. One of the first things we did with great leadership from our board of directors, by the way, we have several board members here in the room. You should meet them. Judith Velasquez is here. And also on the other end of that same row is Kuo Wei Wu. If you could stand up, Kuo Wei, so people can see you. Here are two members of our board of directors who will be with you. This is their home, so they'll be here throughout APRICOT, and please do talk to them. You all know that these great people. But we, working with this board of directors, have actually decided that instead of just releasing the new GTLDs to market in a random selection of order, that we should put the international domain names first. And this was a show of leadership. And that's very important for Asia because, by the way, 70 of the 116 international domain name GTLDs, 70 are in the Chinese characters. 70. So the majority of the benefit of this prioritization of non-Roman letters is actually going to be Asia. And that's well deserved. This will start making up a little bit for all the time that we have not given you, frankly, the deserved attention and the deserved focus that Asia lacked from ICANN. The GTLD program has been in the works for 7 years. It's a long time. The community, bottom up, through a consensus approach, spent 7 years coming up with this program. And it is my, I guess, good fortune that in the first 6 months of my role at ICANN, I get to announce that we will start delegating the new GTLDs in the middle of this year. And that's a great change to the DNS. Many people have attacked this change as unnecessary or opportunistic. Or a way for ICANN to make more money. Let me tell you something. I've built all my successes in business on the internet, on this great global resource that Lynn so eloquently described. This resource that is available to everyone, and to me, and to every one of you, and to every entrepreneur in Asia and in the world, is a great resource, and the expansion of the DNS allows more people to have more choice and more opportunity. I look at my own 2 boys who are in their 20s, and they're starting their own businesses, their own ideas. All of it, the first thing they think about when they have a new business idea is, ooh, I better go get my name on the internet. Let me go reserve my domain, my space to express myself. How about communities that need the internet to express themselves, to bond together? I come from a small minority in Egypt, and I know that minorities, voices that need to be heard, the internet is a great place for them to be heard. It's a great place for them to come together. So by expanding the DNS, by providing more opportunity for more people to have their names and their domains on the internet, what's wrong with that? That's a good thing. It provides more competition, more choice, and more opportunity for all of us. My job is to make sure that these names happen in an orderly way, that it does not destabilize the great internet that we all need every day, and ensure the security and stability of the DNS system that is central to the continued functioning of the internet. That we will do, and we will do it carefully and calmly. We will also take care of the IP rights of many trademark holders who are very worried because suddenly their trademarks will be subject to potentially hijacking by people. ICANN is building the first global trademark clearinghouse. Nobody has done this before. In partnership with IBM and Deloitte, we will have one place on the planet where any trademark holder will be able to register their trademark once, and we will protect it across the DNS system. This is leadership, and this is what we needed to do to make sure everyone is comfortable that ICANN is doing an expansion of the DNS without forgetting the importance of the IP rights of IP holders. And by the way, we will support trademark holders in multiple languages. We will accept trademarks in multiple scripts. So this is a solution for the world, not a solution for simply big American companies or big Western companies. It's a solution for all of us small businesses, and large businesses. And we made sure that the fees to protect these trademarks are very reasonable. $150 per year, so that you can protect your trademark. You couldn't do that through the trademark offices of 150 countries in one registration. One last thing about the changes to ICANN that I want to share with you in the GTLD program. I am very aware that we cannot expand the DNS without understanding and emphasizing our responsibility towards the public interest. If we lose sight of that, then frankly ICANN can become a trade association of the people who work in the DNS world. And that's not our intent. Quite the opposite. So the first thing I introduced this year was the public interest commitments that every new GTLD must proclaim. We are asking them to voluntarily write down what are their public interest commitments. Number two, next week I'll be announcing that every registrar in the world, in their contract, will have to agree to a universal Bill of Rights for every registrant. So registrants have rights. My mother, your son, anybody who goes on the net to register a name must have universal rights. Registrars across the world will now have to adhere to this, and I will enforce it in my contracts with them. Because that's responsibility towards the public. And we cannot lose sight of that. Now, many people on the business side may not be too happy with us standing firm and enforcing these rights of the registrants, but I have begged with them, and I met many of them, as you may have seen. I've been meeting with the CEOs of many of the registries and registrars, and frankly, I must tell you, I am delighted by their response. They are rising to their level of responsibility. If they don't, we will make sure they do. But so far, they have risen to their responsibility. And they have accepted the new regime, a regime of collective focus on the public interest. It doesn't mean they can't make money and they can't be successful. I am someone who built businesses and I respect that. Good luck to all of them. And I hope everyone rises with this new DNS sector. But we cannot do that in absence of focus on the public and their rights. My third and last point is about something Lynn as well as Ms. Shah touched on quite a bit today, and that's multi-stakeholderism. Multi-stakeholderism is new to me. Many of you have lived it and have made it possible. I'm learning about it as I am new to your community. And let me tell you something. I have learned the hard way that the only legitimacy of our organization is adherence to the core concept of multi-stakeholders. We have no other legitimacy but that. The moment we lose that, the moment we skip some stakeholders in order to get quickly to the answer, we lose our legitimacy. Now, I made some mistakes early on in my ICANN tenure because I'm a CEO, so I want to get things done. And so I moved too fast and sometimes left behind some stakeholders. And to my delight, my own community screamed at me. One of my ex-employees went and accused me to the ombudsperson of not adhering to multi-stakeholderism. And I want to thank her publicly for that, because that's exactly what I needed. I needed to fully understand, and I hope you do too, the beauty of this model. And many governments, I hope, will come to see that beauty as I do. Because many governments don't understand how multi-stakeholderism works. It's a lot easier to go to some place where you have your country's name and you raise your hand and you vote and you're done. It's much easier. But it's a lot more meaningful and a lot more legitimate in the internet space for us to come together and build consensus. Civil society, academia, businesses, governments too. They are a part of that. We cannot exclude them. We cannot, and if we do, we lose multi-stakeholderism. They're a stakeholder too. So I invite all of us, as we go to our communities, to share that message of multi-stakeholderism, to share its importance, to live by it. And when one of us makes a mistake, like I did, to stand up to them and to say, this is not multi-stakeholderism. You have left some people behind. Bring them to the table. Involve everyone. And so when we speak about global internet governance, and my colleague Lynn and Paul and others can talk to you about the wicket, we were all there. And we watched as many governments struggled to figure out how they can participate with us in multi-stakeholder approaches to governing the internet. So we have a big job in the months and years ahead to explain this model, to involve people genuinely in this model, to involve our governments in this model, to show them how they can participate, to bring them to the table and show them how this great resource has been built and how we can continue to do it together. Even ICANN alone cannot do it. ICANN needs ISOC. ISOC needs the RIRs, APNIC. All of us need each other together so we can show the world as a group, each in our individual ways, how we can bring internet governance to everyone. My last comment to you is about the global space where the internet lives. I want to make a distinction that's very important. Governments are used to manage things in the international space. That's the space between nations. The internet lives one layer above the international space. It lives in the global space. That doesn't mean that nations don't have a say in it. They have a big role in it. But there are others too that have a big role in it. We have to figure out, as a group, how to manage things in the new global space. And I don't know that there is a better place to do it than here, than the internet. The internet is a global resource. And when people ask me, why do I do this job? This is the only reason I do this job. Because I want one day, when my two boys ask me, you had a chance to preserve one global internet for all people. It's the last resource that unites us. So many things divide us. This unites us. We have a global responsibility to keep it managed well as one internet for all people. Finally, please join us. We are going to do our next big ICANN meeting in Beijing. For those of you who do not know enough about it, we have Shedong Li here, our VP of Asia. Make sure you reach him. Also Save there in the middle, his hand up. And Elise next to him, who runs our IANA function, and of course our board members. Do find out about ICANN's meeting in Beijing. This is going to be a very large meeting. We expect it to be probably our largest. We expect now over 2,000 people to come. It's a major meeting for us. And it's a chance for us to show Asia our new Asian focus. So please come to ICANN. And remember, ICANN meetings are open. They are free. You're welcome to come. Bring your friends. Have them participate. Bring your governments. Bring all the stakeholders from your community. Show them how we build things together. So ICANN Beijing is around the corner. And of course, we'll be back to visit you in Singapore in 2014. We're really looking forward to that. I love the city. I love its people. I worked here in the late 90s on RosettaNet, and I remember what great support Singapore gives as a natural hub for the area. So I thank Singapore again for hosting us today, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Good luck this week. I hope you have a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chehadé, for inspiring speech and for sharing us your thoughts about the future plans for ICANN. Now I'd like to have Philip to come up again to give us a gift of appreciation. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we've all had a very interesting afternoon. A big thank you once again to all the speakers. Now for tea break, we have prepared a lovely spread for you next door at the cartoon ballroom, I'm sorry. That is where the demonstration area is. Do remember to take some time to visit all the booths while you have your tea break. For those of you who intend to join us for the APRICOT opening social this evening, please note that you will need to collect the tickets from counter 5, from the registration counter just outside this ballroom. Tickets are on a first-come, first-served basis, and transport will be provided to the social venue, the island foyer entrance on the other side. With this, we have reached the end of the opening ceremony. I wish you all a productive and enriching week ahead. Thank you.